Thinking Media. We're here for episode 10 of the Brutally Honest podcast. Last time I said 10, but it was actually 9, but it is 10. And for anyone that's moaning about the term brutally honest, it's the name of the bloody podcast. Just thought I'd make that.
Even though if you're not being brutally honest, it's just the name of the podcast, yeah?
Yeah, that's what I named it, Brutally Honest, because people always say that you're too honest for your own good. So yeah, because people are like, why do you keep putting Brutally Honest in the title? Because it's the name of the bloody show. Dom, we're in the back garden of the Ingle Gym, a bit of a jungle going off in the background. I was just thinking, you've got a lot of land behind the gym. There must be so many stories things that have happened in this back area, some of the stars that have been through you. I'm just curious, can you share anything?
Well, at one time, you know, years and years ago when I was a kid, about 10 or 11, they knocked all the terraced houses down. And
behind you?
Well, they knocked them down just across from my dad's house, and not particularly behind, but on there. This land's always been quite empty for years and years and years. But they had a building site, a council building site, what built some old people's flats. I was about 10 years old, and they had all the stuff set up around here. They had some wooden offices next where the football pitches. They had like a canteen, a big hut, and an office where all the workers came in and ate for the building site. My mother used to come over. She got the job as doing the main man's food while he was here. My dad was one of the foremen, and he was also the night watchman for the building site. And just here was a big diesel tank, big tank for red diesel to fill all the dumper trucks up and the JCBs. And I always remember coming around here because this was just kind of like dirt, and we get jars of this red diesel. We didn't even know what it were, and it smells a bit, like it could be flammable. We'd be chucking matches in it, and it'd be up. We're behind here. And one time my dad caught us doing it. He gave us a right hiding. Well, he didn't give us an hiding actually. Just give us a dressing down, because he never laid an hand on us. But he gave us a big dressing down about messing about with flammable stuff. So yeah, and it's overgrown now, but we trim it down. We've had bonfires on there, community bonfires, sports events, even like little sparring sessions in the summer. So it's a bit overgrown at the minute. It just needs a trim down, so we'll get the lawnmower out and take it down.
It's a lot of land. Any plans to do anything with it?
No, it's part of the gym. It's recreational, isn't it? It's just part of the gym area. So no, it's not going to get changed.
What about the basketball court next door? Is that part of the gym?
The basketball court actually belongs. It's on a long-term lease from the council. So that's been up. My dad had that made. That was just wasteland. We used to have bonfires on there. My dad put a claim into council. They give us a grant, and they turned it all over. And he worked for a council-run organisation called Starting Point back in the late 80s, and they just have all the kids they couldn't do anything with. So he had the group of kids where they used to go around doing all people's gardens, and he'd teach them how to do the gardening, use a lawnmower, dig over the soil. And he had the van of the worst type of kids who nobody could control. So Brendan got that job and mentored them. And in fact, I was in...
There's actually a video of that online.
There's a video, but there was a lad. I'd been into town to see one of my friends who's got a tyre company, Top Tread Tyres, Joel Bowler. He works in the gym. And I was waiting in the garage, and a fella shouted over the wall, "All right, Dominic, I was on Starting Point with your dad. I've never looked back. I've got my own gardening business." So he got a contract with somebody. He says, "Oh, best days of my life." So that was a kid who could do, who didn't do anything, but they just learned to do a bit of gardening and then went on to other stuff. So, they were no good academically, but kind of labour intensive and doing that kind of stuff. He taught them the skills. And some, we see him, loads of kids there who were on that team with my dad. He had about 12 kids, and, the kids coming in, kids coming out when they'd done the year. And it went on for about 5 or 6 years. But he had all the uncontrollables or the undesirables. And we still see him around about now, and they've all done quite well in their lives.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And the last thing of that basketball court, I noticed the Adidas sign is still there. Am I right in saying that's just from the Nazim Ahmed days?
No, it wasn't actually. That's so sponsored. There was another grant where Adidas sponsored basketball hoops, so they put them on, and that's why they've got the advertisement there.
Okay, fascinating. I noticed you're looking trim, slim. Summer's coming. Is it just what you normally do every summer?
You know what? It's a bit late coming. Getting some weight off for the summer, keeping active. I've been doing a bit of boxing training. You might have seen some clips on my social media, but I'm always doing something in the background. I mean, to be honest, I'm not doing as much pad work as I used to do, and I noticed the low activity levels. I've started to gain more weight. doing the same kind of stuff food-wise, but activity levels down. So I thought I'll give it a bit of a concerted effort, get a bit of running in, bit of sparring, bit of bag work, pad work, and do more kind of boxing-based exercise for a change. I mean, I did boxing as a kid, and it's not my first love, to be honest. It's a bit of a chore, just like running is. But you know, once you get back into it, it's like riding a bike again, and you've got to have the love for that, and getting in and getting in and doing some body sparring with the kids, and going on the pads with Kid Gallagher, who's there doing pad work, and Luke and my nephew, they're doing it. They've actually got the corner and seconds license, trainer's license last month. So you probably see them on the circuit now doing the corner work. It's just going on. They're kind of doing a lot of work in the gym with kids coming in. We've got a sparring session in today with Mo Saban, professional 10-0. He's sparring me. My nephew's organising that. He's supervising it. So it's kind of mentoring them two and a few others to kind of make sure it extends onwards, you know, after I've completely lost interest or doing other stuff.
So the Ingle boxing family legacy is going to continue through Luca Ingle. And if anyone wants to train with Luca or do sessions, to contact the gym.
Yeah, there's the Ingle Gym TV on Instagram or my Instagram. I've got, getting lots of inquiries.
Sound. Let's talk about the boxing. I think the first thing I want to speak to you about, a big talking point over the weekend, there was a video circulating of Tyson Fury looking a bit worse for wear at a local pub in Morecambe, I think it was. Did you watch the video?
I saw somebody sent me a clip of it, and it looked like a really old clip, but then somebody's told me that it's not, it's a recent clip. And, whatever Tyson was drinking that night, I'd find out, and whoever the company is, I'd be labelling it, this stuff puts Tyson Fury on, this does what Usyk can't, puts Tyson Fury on his back, because you think everything that Usyk hit Tyson with, he stood up, but whatever he was drinking that night, it was flat out. So it'd be an interesting branding point, whatever it was. Some people go out and they just drink gin or vodka or whatever, I don't know what he drinks. But that'd be the tagline over the bottle. This put Tyson Fury on his back.
He still got back up though.
Oh, he got back up. Yeah, he's still not being floored, has he? But it's an interesting point. But yeah, look, if people believe that fighters live a saintly life in that respect, they don't. It's like, I'll give you a little story because I like to give you these stories.
I think people love them as well.
A long time back, when two British prospects were coming through, Ricky Hatton, and I just seen he's been inducted into the. Has he been inducted into the International Hall of Boxing Fame? Which is, fantastic.
Jane Couch.
Yeah, fantastic. And for Jane as well, one of the first female boxers. But Ricky, obviously was kind of the nemesis of Junior Witter type of thing all the way through the boxing careers. They're always touting a match between them. And, he came up to fight John Thaxton at Wembley. And not Wembley Arena, the Wembley Conference Centre. It was only a small place. And I remember what John Thaxton was the ultimate pro, disciplined, everything he ate was measured out, chicken, rice, beef, everything perfect, no junk. And he boxed Ricky Hatton. And obviously Ricky Hatton had always issues with making weight, and it was documented he was always out on the raz and, living the life in between fights. And I said to John Thaxton, this is probably where it's going to catch him out with you because you're super disciplined. It's going to be a tough fight for him. And we weighed in, and I can remember driving down through Wembley to get back to the hotel to get some decent food for John Thaxton. And we pulled up at these traffic lights in the transport what was taking us from the venue to the way into the hotel. And we looked across and we saw Ricky Hatton and Billy Graham sat in a kebab shop. And the first meal after weighing in was going to be a kebab. And John Thaxton looked and couldn't believe it that Ricky Hatton, after he'd made weight, the first thing he was going to put in his body was a kebab. And he kind of felt disrespected in a way. And I said, don't worry about what he does, that's what he does. It's like, regardless of what Ricky does, whether he's eating kebabs, drinking Guinness, whatever he's doing, when he turns up to fight, he turns up to fight. Doesn't matter. I said, and he puts in the performance. I says, he might not be living right outside the ring, but he's working for what he's doing. Naz did a similar thing. He used to eat McDonald's before fights. So when you look at Tyson kind of going off the rails, you think to yourself, well, that's unusual, but it's not. That's the kind of behaviour. It's kind of a do-or-die situation for fighters. They put themselves in these positions. And I always remember a quote from Frank Maloney, or Kelly Maloney now, saying, well, boxers have got a screw loose. You've got to be you've got to have to be getting punched in the face. And he was referring to one of his fighters, Tony Oki. I think he failed the test on cocaine. I remember, and it came out in the Sun or the Mirror, hokey cokey. You know, so and he came out with that quote, Frank Maloney, well, you know, you've got to have a screw loose to be a boxer. And that's exactly what it is. The best type of fighters seem to be those who live on the edge and have got a screw loose. And at some point they go on and they do great stuff. Mike Tyson, Tyson Fury, you know, all these fighters. And Arturo Gatti, Corrales, you know, died in I think a motorbike crash on the Strip. Fantastic fighters, dangerous fighters. They shine for a period of time, and they're so flamboyant, but they kind of come to a crashing end. And then you get the very disciplined fighters. Look at Floyd Mayweather all the way through his career. Even with Usyk, seems to be disciplined all the way. Klitschko's disciplined all the way through. They don't tend to have many crashes or stuff in the newspaper about them going off the rails. Lennox Lewis, another one, not much in the newspapers, but you get Tyson, you get Mike Tyson, you get all these other names, Ricky Hatton in the papers for something or other. So you get them type of fighters, and it doesn't surprise me about Tyson. Maybe the after effect of the loss has affected him now, and he's kind of drowning his sorrows, but it'll all be put behind him. You've heard fighters, Kell Brook, talking about being in a dark place after getting beat by Golovkin and Errol Spence back to back, you know, and they come through it, through training, and get back on track. And look how Kell finished his career against Amir Khan, and, you know, that's a good place to be. Ricky, on the other hand, finished getting beat by, you know, Senchenko in Manchester in front of his own crowd, the places where he was having fantastic nights, fantastic wins, and it was sad in a way to see his career finish like that. But he's picked himself up, he's got his gym, he's training, he's doing his stuff, and he's trying to, you know, move in a different direction from obviously fighting. He's trying to mentor kids and doing that kind of stuff. So it was good to see him and get recognised the other day in the International Hall of Boxing fame.
How important is it having the right people around you? Because looking at that video footage, I didn't see anyone that I saw in Riyadh, basically. Yeah, but it looked like he's in a circle.
Well, this is what I said to you. We did one of the previous podcasts about the hangers-on and the fame touchers. They all love it when you're on TV and you're in the limelight and you're all around when there's money to be made, there's attention to be gained. You know, you're in the limelight. But who wants to be around a loser? So when you get beat, these people scarper and they're on to the next patch of people. So, you know, realistically, you've always got to have somebody in your camp who's going to tell the main man, which is Tyson Fury or Mike Tyson or Nazim Hamid, what you're doing is wrong, stop doing it. But because of the main men, they don't listen to anybody. Nazim Hamid was the same. My dad told him the same thing. What you're doing, what everybody around you is doing is wrong. That's going to unravel at some point. Mark my words was his favourite saying. And he might have left this gym and had 4 or 5 fights and won. But when he came up against the fight that he needed to, which Barrera, which he should have won really, considering Barrera's recent form, he got beat. And he got beat because the system around him, didn't keep him on track. He got the skill and the ability, but you've got to listen to, don't be listening to the 99 people who are telling you, yeah, go on, you're all right, keep going. You got to listen to that one saying, you're not doing that right. And in Tyson's camp, to be honest, and people might be up in arms about this one, it'll be John Fury saying, you're not doing it right, Tyson. You're not doing this and you're not doing that. And people said, oh, John's giving him the wrong advice. Maybe John looked in that corner and thought, this is slipping away from Tyson. Just get through these rounds and survive on your feet, and you can rewrite it in the rematch. You can rechange it, because you're not going to do it from this point onwards. Maybe that's what he was saying to him. Everybody's interpretation is different. That's his son, realistically. And the money and everything else doesn't matter. What matters is the pride. That's what matters. And everybody else, whether it's the trainer, the nutritionist, the S&C, for whoever else, they go on to their everyday lives. Tyson and his dad and the immediate family have got to live with that. So maybe that's what that was. So somebody's got to tell him. Who's going to turn around and say to Tyson, yeah, don't be doing that, pal, because you're off the team if you tell them any different. They don't tend to listen. They listen afterwards when it's all a bit too late. So it's no surprises. It's not the first time boxers have done it. It'll never be the last. And if they have the rematch or when they have a rematch in December, if he loses, people go way back to that point, him on his back. So, well, what do you expect? That's where you were. You've come in, you've got beat again. That's it. It's just how it is. He's got enough money. What difference is it going to make apart from his pride? It's going to make no difference. He's still made his money.
I'm just curious from your point of view. Do you think he needs to make changes in regards to like training?
No, I think you'd have to be in the camp. You'd have to go in and watch the camp. You know, sometimes in these big companies, and they send in a troubleshooter, and they say, "Yeah, you're doing that wrong. Change that." Or it's like when you get Gordon Ramsay going into restaurants and saying, "You're doing that wrong. Your chef's rubbish. Change this, change that, change the other."
Who's going to be Gordon Ramsay?
Who's going to be Gordon Ramsay? Who's it going to be? Who's qualified? Who's Tyson going to trust enough to say that? But look, doing the same thing, doing the same thing over and over again. I know they say it's the definition of madness, but ultimately it all stops with the fighter. The fighter makes the decisions. And what I will say about most of the successful fighters I train, especially people like Kell Brook never really questioned what I told him in the gym. He did it. If it failed, in certain points, he'd have said, "Well, you've done that wrong," but he never did. When he didn't agree with me, do you know what he did? He just went and trained somewhere else. So when he didn't agree what I was doing, the first time he left and went to fight Zaraf or whatever, he probably thought, "Yeah, I need to change up, I'm getting stale, I'm doing all these things." He went off and he didn't perform well at all. And he certainly didn't perform well against Crawford on 2 occasions when I didn't train him. Now people might say, "Well, he didn't perform great against Golovkin and he didn't perform great against Errol Spence." But at the end of it all, he finished his last fight training with me, and even you and some respected boxing writers and journalists thought, "I think Amir Khan's got his measure." And I kept just saying it's never.
Just for clarity,
right, maybe you
always
didn't.
talked about back in the day, not.
But whichever way it is. But that's the situation. And he came back and he did his training after getting beat by Crawford. Getting flattened by Crawford, really, in Kell's, by Kell's standard, only 4 rounds. He came back and he beat Khan. Whether, people think, like, well, so what, they were both past the best. It doesn't make any difference. He still beat him on paper. And that's it. So, clever fighters, like I say, look at people like Cole Froch. The ups and downs of his career and the odd losses that he had, well, I think 2 maybe he lost. He still stuck with his training, still carried on doing what he's doing. You look at him there, perfect teeth, nose straight, on podcast, telling everybody how it is. Telling everybody that, this is bullshit, that's bullshit. You don't care because he's achieved a lot. And he's finished boxing in a good place. Plenty of money. Understand? Seems like he's got all his faculties anywhere in some hard fights. Some very hard fights. But he seems clear as a bell. And that is success.
Just on that point as well, because people are questioning all sorts now that he's lost, but prior to that, the Wilder wins, everyone's praising Sugar Hill and the team around him. So is it worth putting that into context as well? Sometimes when you do lose, everyone just looks for reasons, and maybe it just wasn't their night and they got a chance to try and change that.
Like I said before, everybody's there to do the job, the trainer, the S&C, the nutritionist, and you tend to find that, everybody's got the role, and it's whether when that product's going into the ring, everybody can actually put their hand on their heart and say, "We've all done the best job we can do." I question a lot of stuff when I see people training, and trainers, and S&C people around fighters and everything else. There's lots of questions could be asked, but there's no point pointing the finger at all, because everybody's got a different way. There'll be people who sit there and criticise me. There'll be people who sit there and criticise, McGuigan, Ben Davis. Everybody's going to get criticism. You're just going to get it.
Part of life.
It's just a part of life. It's just what it is. And then when you win, it's all changed, and everybody's back on top. So you just have to take, don't believe in the hype when people are telling you how great you are, and don't believe in it when they're telling you how crap you are. Ignore it. Just work on what you've got to work on.
It's one question I'm going to ask you off topic, because I've not written it down. But when you just said about Kell, obviously he left you twice and he came back obviously on both occasions. I'm just curious, the second time when he came back after he did a one fight with somebody else, how did that conversation go? Because I assume that you've got a lot of pride, and you may not, I'm assuming you wasn't happy when he left, but when he came back, how did that conversation go? Was any part of you thinking, "Mate, you left me twice, I'm not going to take you back"?
No, because Actually, not twice, 3 times, because the first time he went to Dave Colwell.
What was the second one?
He went to box Zarafa.
Who was that? Which trainer was that? I can't
It was,
remember.
weren't it John Fuchs from Sheffield.
Yep, and then what was
And
the
then he fought Crawford with a Spanish trainer. He's actually was a decent.
yeah, I forgot about that,
So,
yeah.
but the
So
thing
he's
is,
left you 3 times,
yeah,
he came back
but
3
the
times.
difference is I've known him since he was 9, and it's a bit like.
What was the conversation like on the
I
third
can't
time?
even remember because I don't even think it was a conversation. But I think I might have said to him like, back then, and he went, yeah, and that's it because I've known him. It's a bit like having a kid. And as a father, you've got kids and I have, and you'll say to your kids, all right, well, this is what you should be doing. But who listens to their dad? You understand? I can remember my dad having a conversation outside of that gym. We're having a conversation, and I was 30 odd years old, I got kids. And he was telling me about something. We were having a bit of a heated debate about something. And I says, all the things you told me not to do when I was a kid, don't do this, Dominic, don't do it. I'm not going to say what they were, because he got his own ways. There were only 3 that I didn't do, you know. I did everything else. I didn't take drugs and the volleyball, whatever he stipulated, but all them other things. I said, I didn't do them. I says, but there were some things I did do. And he looked at me shocked. I says, and the only reason you told me not to do it, because you'd done it yourself. And you didn't want me doing it. So you're telling me not to do something that you did from your experience. I said, but everybody has to experience them mistakes, to learn. It don't matter anybody telling you. It's a really wise man who can listen and not do it. I says, and your dad probably told you the same thing. So getting back to the Kell Brook situation, it's like, well, and it's not even point saying I told you so. It's just a learning experience. That's all it is. But at least you have enough sense and worked it out for yourself. The best place is come back here. Yeah, you might have done it 2 or 3 times. People have that. You can't get disgruntled about it because they have to learn the lesson, and that's the relationship I had with Kell. All right, fair enough then. And if you know, there weren't an issue, people were trying to make an issue out of it and build it up, and there's big fallout. Well, if that's what you want to do, off he went. And when he came back then, yeah, all right, go on then, get your stuff on. That were it. It weren't really, you know, you've done this and you met. It's like, try not to make the mistakes.
Fascinating. And before I speak to you about the last topic, I'm just going to let the viewers know the Ready to Fight app. The link is top of the description. There's a great new feature on there. You can predict fights, and if you get it right, you win tokens, which are RTF tokens. And with them tokens, you can spend them on the app. You can buy things, all sorts of things. They're all on the app, so it's very self-explanatory. But if you want to download the app, some great stuff on there for boxing fans. Like I said, you can predict fights and actually win stuff that you can then go and spend.
Can I do that?
Of course you can. Download the app. And,
perfect.
And obviously you got 4 out of 5 right, and if you predicted them 4 right.
It's probably the only time I'm ever going to be successful at predicting fights.
Yeah,
People have been actually messaging me saying any more tips. I went, don't be, asking me for tips. You'll be wasting your money.
Yep. But yeah, it's a great new concept. Our partners in this podcast, they're ready to fight people. Some great innovative things happening on the application, as well as boxing news, etc. The last thing I want to speak to you about, Dom, this whole thing with the Wembley card on September the 21st. So currently we're looking at the main event. Anthony Joshua, from what Eddie Hearn's saying, could end up fighting Zhang or Daniel Dubois. And he's kind of mentioned that because Dubois currently is the interim IBF champion, and he's saying if the full belt isn't available, if they don't want to fight Dubois, and potentially might look at Zhang. What do you make of that?
But what, fight Zhang for what, for no belt?
Yeah.
I can understand why, because when you think where Joshua's been, he's been the world champion, he's gone through the interims, he's gone through the eliminators, whatever it is like kind of taking a step backwards. And most people will rate, well, a lot of people will rate Joshua above Dubois. So, but people say, well, it's an interim title. You can't begrudge him for doing that, because he is just operating, he has for a long time still been operating at an higher level than Dubois. So I don't know what the money perspective is or whatever. I just don't think that, and especially the IBF as well, where they're very stringent and tough on making their mandatories. Look, obviously that position's arose because Usyk maybe not be able to defend his belt, so they put him in as the interim. So, like, if Eddie, I'm not saying that in any way, shape or form AJ is afraid to box Dubois. I don't think he is at all. I don't think, it's a good fight, and the way Dubois is going, it's an interesting fight. But if I'm brutally honest, I think Joshua will beat him.
Is Dubois, sorry, is AJ Zhang a bigger fight at Wembley than AJ Dubois, no matter whether there's a belt on or not?
I think it's about the same, because I think Joshua against anybody, unless it's Tyson Fury or Usyk again, I don't think any fight's particularly big for him unless it's those two. I still think that AJ, even for the third fight with Usyk, it's still a fight. And even a fight with Tyson. So I think, looking at from my perspective now, Tyson, Usyk, AJ, the top three, they're the fights. Anybody else, them fighting anybody else is kind of like a bit, I'm not going to say nondescript, but not really particularly interesting. Let Dubois fight other people, make that interesting, make him come a few more fights, so make him earn it a bit more. Because everybody else has. I just think Dubois needs, he's done well and fantastic in his last fight out. You know, what he did with Ergovic, whatever, great. But he, you know, did Ergovic take him too light? You think, well, you know, I'm unbeaten, I'm better than him, I've got everything better. Maybe you just underestimated Dubois and thought he's going to fall once, because it did look like in that fight that Ergovic was trying to put him into his shell and make him spew it. And like with Dubois being in odd positions before, I thought, I'm not this time, pal. It's a do or die. And he came through, fair play to him. But give him another test, put him in with somebody else, and then maybe he's going to be, you know, in that match for the bigger fights. But I don't think it's that much of a you know, for Joshua, just because he wants an IBF belt. He can get that fight with Usyk without having to be a champion, can't he? Because it's an interesting fight.
Is Zhang a harder fighter than Dubois?
They're both hard fights, but for different reasons. You know, Zhang's a southpaw, Dubois an orthodox. You know, Zhang can bang.
I'll put it this way. What if you're getting the same amount of money? So I know you're not a manager technically, but you've got enough experience in boxing. Let's just say
if I had to have him in, I put
same amount of money fighting both.
I put Joshua in with Dubois. But if there was more money for Zhang, a lot more money for Zhang, I think Zhang's an harder fight because he's southpaw. But if you look, Ben Davis is there training AJ, and when you think that the shot what had Deontay Wilder over, and don't forget, I'll say it again, it wasn't the top flight Deontay Wilder. It just seems that it falls into Zhang's lap when anybody who's stupid enough to throw a backhand, a right hand off the back foot at Zhang, they must be nuts, because he's seen it coming a million times, and it's the same thing, clips him with a right hook, times them, slips them, bang, and they all fall for it. So if you think about how Deontay Wilder was, he's in front of Zhang, straight in front of him, and he's throwing this backhand. Well, if you're going to throw that backhand into Zhang in a straight line, use a bit of common sense, step outside. So step outside of it, close the distance a little bit, wait, anticipate maybe but come outside and hit him off centre. But they're all hitting him down the pipe, and as he hit him down the pipe, he's countering him, clipping him. Like Ben Davison will spot that a mile off with AJ. Do you understand? So if they fight, they'll have the technique to make sure that shot's negated. They should do, because it's his best shot. He gets everybody with that shot.
Fascinating. But yeah, I think there's so much more happening. We've got something launching next week that you're going to be a part of as well. I'm going to keep that a secret for now, because I think it'd be...
Don't tell me you've got your own private jet.
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully one day. But yeah, we've got something launching next week, which you're a part of. And yeah, I think fans will enjoy some more good debating with more company. And I'll leave it at that. Yeah, Dom, appreciate your time. It's a nice day. Summer's coming. And yeah, if you want your summer bodies, get in touch with Dom and Greg Marriott. That summer's literally around the corner.
It is. Ready to go, get in shape, six-pack.
Thank you very much.